Hey everybody, we are teaching Tilt Brush. And today for teaching Tilt Brush, we are doing tips for a small room space. Some of us are lucky enough to have a very large play area where I can really walk around a lot to do some big artwork. But a lot of people have a very small area where they need to work. Maybe they don't have a big empty room. So today we're going to look at how to use Tilt Brush to make large paintings, even if you don't have a large workspace yourself. I think I'm going to get rid of the video because it's a little distracting in the background there. So let me go to my videos and stop that one. Okay. So today's teaching Tilt Brush. Come here, you. Okay. So as you can see in a large room space, I can be walking around a lot and really not worry about space and size and that type of stuff. Everything is right where I want it. Everything is right where I can keep it. But not all of us have that luxury. So we're going to look at some ways of keeping your room space limited, even though you don't have to be. I'm losing my props here. Okay. So with a large room space, you're free to move around. In a small space, it's more important that you are able to move the room around you. And that's in fact one of the things that we do in our Moving in the World video, showing you how you can control your world space, rotate it, change scale, so that you can do the work without having to move around yourself. Now in a small area, you do need to be aware of where things are, touching and bumping into stuff. For a small space, we actually recommend, rather than trying to find a good place to stand and things, use an actual stool. Having that in place helps keep you in place. You're less likely to move far and wide, so you're less likely to end up bumping into things. Likewise, a stool instead of a chair keeps you a little bit more vertical, so you can move your arms a lot more. Especially a chair with arms, you're going to be bumping the arms with your elbows and things on a regular basis. So trying to find a way where you can keep yourself stationary, but still have freedom of movement is going to be important. If you're at a desk, make sure you rotate yourself so you're facing away from the desk. So I'm not going to catch the desk or bash the keyboard, or worse, hit the monitor if I'm gesturing. With the important stuff behind you, you're less likely to cause damage as you work. Unfortunately, if you have pets like cats and dogs, there's very little you can do to be able to see them if they come in, but a friend of mine will actually put a bell on the collar so they can at least hear when the cat is in the room and less likely to step on them by accident. So once we've got ourselves firmly and comfortably established somewhere and we're fairly sure we have a good freedom of movement, we do want to practice moving the environment, both changing scale and just moving it around, so that as you're working, whether you're working on a large landscape piece or even a small sculptural piece, make sure you have full control over getting it around. So you resist the temptation to walk around, which puts you in more danger of hitting things. One trick that a lot of people will do, here in the studio, I've actually got a table in front of me here and a desk over on this side. So part of this sketch, I'm going to lift it and move it around. This light shape here, you can see it's a corner of a table. When we're at actual size, that corner of the table synchronizes to where the actual table is in the room. So I actually have something in the painting giving me guidelines. Okay, there's a desk here, there's a table here. So I have visual reference. So I know if I need to put something down, I actually can see where the table is. Advantage is we have a lot more idea of how our real space is in the real space. Disadvantage, I now have these big lines and rectangles messing up what could be a lovely picture. I don't need all these extra blue light lines. They're just there for my reference so I don't hit things. Really, that's the picture itself. But not everybody wants those. The other disadvantage is as I move the sketch around, those positions move as well. So no longer, this is not where the desk is. This is not where the table is. Things don't line up. So by building it into the sketch, the more you move the sketch, the more likely your registration points won't line up anymore. There is one part of Tilt Brush that doesn't move when you move the room. Guides move with the room. Even if you pin them in place, you're pinning them in relation to the rest of your sketch. The only things that don't move are things that aren't part of the sketch. Your control panels. So if I know this is my seated position and I don't want to move, maybe I know there's a table or a bookcase right here, I can actually rip off the panels, the toolbars, and place these toolbars in a position where I know there's something there. Now when I move the room space, you can see how my panels are unaffected. It's still here. That one's still here. So even if I move the sketch around, my reference points, this bookcase, putting that where the bookcase is means it's always going to be there. This is also especially fun for the people who like to just have a control panel for their tools. I can set these guys up right here. Actually, I just put them off screen, so I can put them in a place where you guys can see them. If I set these up right here, even if I move the sketch around, you can see how my tool panels stay in place. They are not affected by the sketch. So if I use these as my reference, then the bookcase panel will always stay on the bookcase, and as long as I don't punch through him, I know I'm not going to hit any objects. So we could paint guidelines within the sketch, being aware that they're going to move, or we could actually use our panels to represent where physical objects are so we know not to touch them, not to bump into them. We can still make choices from them, but we know not to punch through them because there's something there. We can always then reset our panels to put them back into place. We looked at moving panels in the More Controllers video, which we'll have a link to above. We use a separate video for moving in the world to really show you how to change your scale and position. But this one is all about I can't physically move much, but I still want to work on a large piece. So it's a combination of moving the sketch around you and using these different tips to try to maximize the space you actually have. You only need a clear area of a couple of feet, just enough to move your arms. Even if you have a ceiling fan, you shouldn't have to reach high very often. You shouldn't have to actually reach the floor very often. Just a comfortable 3 or 4 foot workspace is enough to now move the entire sketch around in that space. You just need to come up with references for you so you're not accidentally moving too far, reaching too far to hit things. Once you really get involved in painting, it's really easy to forget that there's a real world around you as you're so wrapped up in your studio space. So sketching in reference markers, using your panels as reference markers so they don't move with the sketch, having things like a nice comfortable stool in a nice place so my elbows aren't bumping, and we have a lot more control, a lot more usability without worrying about breaking windows, breaking monitors, that kind of stuff. Large room spaces are nice, but a small room space will still let you make as big of a sketch as you like. As long as you don't mind moving the sketch around you, instead of you getting up and walking, you can still get yourself to any part of the sketch to work with any part. Large, small, moving it up, moving it down. You don't need to move if you don't have the space. Those of us who have a large workspace, it presents problems of its own. Walking too far, finding those boundaries. If you use Steam VR, for example, you can have the grid show up once you start getting too close to actual walls and things. Likewise, being aware of ceiling fans, objects, chairs, those are all going to be hazards. Small animals and children who like to run between your legs, all hazards you're going to have to worry about. We strongly recommend before putting on the headset, make sure the area is safe. Things like a glass coffee table can be a much bigger risk than you expect. So even something like putting a blanket over it means if you do stumble into it, you're less likely to cause severe damage. So be aware of your space before going in. What can you get out of the way or cover up? Then what sort of markings can you do to keep yourself from wandering too far? Or get lucky and have a large garage you can convert or a studio space so that you can really spread out. Not necessary, but that gives you the most art studio feeling where you can really go for it. We're going to do other lessons that also cover how to work with your space, how to work with the tools, but this one is just for the people who don't have a big space. How can they work big even if they can't move big? This was done as a request from one of our viewers since they were jealous of our big room space. So if you have other things you'd like us to talk about, let us know. We do like coming up with lessons based on what you guys want to learn about. That's why we're here. So go ahead and subscribe, tell all your friends, keep coming back each week to see what new things we have to talk about to help make your tilt brush experience even more fun. We do this live every Sunday on twitch.tv/shamelessmayhem and here on youtube.com/shamelessmayhem as well. Let us know what you think in the comments, tell all your friends, and have fun in Tilt Brush.